I've had a lot of requests recently for some more ratings video. So I did gunners the other week. So this week I decided to do air class. So we are going to rank all air class bots from obviously S to D tier, with obviously S tier being absolutely unbelievably amazing. Go and chase these guys, go and get them. To D being, yeah, don't bother. If you do put one of these guys, leave it at level 1. So first off, we have the original Jetfire, and I say that because there's plenty of Jetfires in this list. The original Jetfire. So, the original Jetfire was one of the mainstay bots for quite a while, but fell away from the meta quite quickly once the likes of SG Jetfire came out and other long range special bots. He still has good use at lower levels of the game. He can take out some decent defenses, can't really take out the MDS, so I feel like he's in B tier, he's okay, does some decent damage. Next we've got Skydive. Skydive, a lot like Jetfire, but obviously does acid damage over time, which obviously stops healing. A bit more expensive, and so I feel like he's kind of in B tier as well, where he's a very good, well, not very good, but pretty good at lower levels. Then we've got Silver Bolt. Silver Bolt, I'll put in A tier. Still used at a top level, a lot of backdoor attacks, taking out build bots from range. So has some really good uses, quite cheap as well, quite effective. Next we have Air Raid. Air Raid using a lot of top teams at the moment to take out those sort of split bases of resources at the bottom and defenses at the top. So Air Raid straight into S tier, absolutely amazing bot. Now, it may have jumped the gun a bit, but next we have Powerglide. Powerglide is currently under review as a legacy bot, but right now we're judging them as they are in the game. And sadly, I'm going to put him right down in D. Inconsistent damage, quite misleading, stating he does a lot of damage when he doesn't actually do it. The curvature of the fly also affects the way he drops the bombs as well. Did get a buff a while back, but ended up not really being a buff, and so really quite poor. Next we have Firefly. So Firefly, very similar to Jetfire, does a bit less damage, but I feel like his ability 11 is better, where it does an AoE damage in an area around the target. And so yeah, I'm quite a fan of his ability 11, but a bit less damage than Jetfire, which sort of leaves him the same. Next we've got Stormclash. Now Stormclash is a difficult one because Stormclash doesn't have a G1, doesn't have ability 11, and so has a lot of potential. And I feel like once we get Stormclash as a 5-star to finish off 5-star Victorian, we'll see a lot more of Stormclash. And so Stormclash I'm going to put in B as well. Very similar to the damage, but I think a lot of potential to improve. Next we have Trax. Trax goes straight into S tier. The one 4-star in the game that is still in a lot of top tier teams. Very good, and I can see at HQ19 him making a bit of a comeback to reduce that damage to your bots. Will we see a rehash of the FFDs coming into base design? Who's to know? Next we have Cosmos. So we spoke earlier about Cosmos getting an upgrade as part of his 5-star version. Now I think before that he would have been quite low, but again I'm going to put Cosmos into B. I think he's pretty decent now. He's alright, but he's just not hitting these sort of top war teams, top option for outposts. Next up we've got Cybertron Jetfire. So Cybertron Jetfire, I feel like has never really done anything decent, really never quite hit the meta. I'm not a big fan of raids, and so don't actually use him, and so I feel like he's going to be in D along with Powerglide. Next up we have Brainstorm. Brainstorm, quite a difficult one. I think since Air Raid has come massively into the meta, we're seeing less and less of Brainstorm, and so I'm going to put Brainstorm in to B, I think. Just because of his cost, it's quite high. Does really well, like Air Raid, but that cost, if you do use the ability and don't get it off, it can be absolutely devastating. Next up, we've got Slingshot. I feel like Slingshot is really underutilized with that acid and that fire. Obviously, you've got the anti-fire build bots and the anti-acid build bots, which kind of kills him a bit because he uses both and can get negated by both as well. And so I feel like Slingshot actually fell down a couple of tiers into that B section as well. Next up, we've got Jetfire Sky Striker. And I feel like he's again in that sort of D tier of bots, just being not very good at all, not useful for most things. Does alright damage, but I just feel like he's been left behind. Next up, we've got Blades. Blades used in a lot of top teams at the minute. Me personally, I feel like his ability does well to negate some defenses from doing damage to your bots, but doesn't do great at killing bots unless there's obviously Megatronus on there that's not on the shock tower. So I feel like Blades goes into A tiers, make a bit of a comeback now that people are using the anti-hack cores less and less on defense in favor of the anti-fire and anti-acid and FFD. So Blades making a bit of a comeback. Next, we've got Metal Hawk, used in quite a few top teams. I think that this guy could probably go into S tier before he's being fixed. I still think he's good enough for A tier. Can do really well, obviously, at reducing damage to your own bots, similar to Blades. Personally, I prefer to take bots out rather than use ability points just to negate some damage for a while. Next up, we've got Swoop. Swoop is a difficult one because obviously on attack, not very good, but on defense, one of the top outpost bots in the game. For that reason, I'm going to put him as A because I can imagine a lot of lower players will look at this tier and think, oh, I'm going to go and chase Swoop and use him in top level wars. That's not the case. He's not going to be that good for top level wars. Very good on defense, lower at lower levels, but not for top level wars. Stick him in an outpost. Then we've got Tiger Hawk. Tiger Hawk sadly has never reached the levels of what Swoop has on defense and an offense just as much. I think the problem is that it's more in an area than Swoop is, so Swoop doesn't hit a target. Swoop hits a target every time he goes round and doesn't miss a target, whereas Tiger Hawk's more in an area. Very awful, very much awful on offense as well. I actually went and chased a 5-star to try it and was quite disappointed. So he's going to go into C tier because he does do a decent amount of damage in an area, but not great. Next up, we've got Strafe. So you can use a bit of a spam team along the likes of Sentius Magnus and likes of Rotorstorm and bots like that. But I feel like it's very niche and he needs to be in there with other bots. It's very hard to use him on his own to do anything good. If you try and even solo with him, then he kind of gets lost in the base, hits a outpost and dies instantly with his low HP. And so it does decent damage. It's not awful, so I would put Strafe in the C tier. Next, we've got Beast Wars Silver Balls. This is a bit of a difficult one. For the simple reason that he does disable the MDS, but not for long enough. And so I feel like this is a 5-star version, but we're ranking it a lot higher. But I feel like he's kind of here at the moment as a 4-star. Very good at lower levels, but not at high levels. But can't wait to see the 5-star version and can't wait to see him push up these ranks, maybe even to S tier. He's kind of at a point where the damage is not enough, but as soon as that damage does become enough, he will jump right up to S tier for me. So a potential amazing bot when it comes around to being a 5-star version for Magnabus. Then we got Wing Saber, and they're quite a new bot. I'm not really impressed with his ability because it removes our shield. It's not awful, but you can't use it on the HQ. So I thought about when I'm slashing bases, it won't be using the HQ, so can't do that. It will remove the shield from the shield gen, but won't remove the shields from around it because it's not AoE. So you're still kind of hitting one target and dropping glass gas on the way. Now, you could couple this up with the likes of Warpath, but it's kind of a waste because Warpath does damage in a line and then does damage and glass gas as well from the first ability. So if you're going to do damage in a line, you're going to use Warpath. You're not going to use Wing Saber. So I kind of feel like he's not really got a use in the game apart from moving shields, which is okay. So I wouldn't say he's awful. I can imagine some people using him because he's got great range, but he's still in that sort of C tier of having a very niche use. Then we've got SG Jetfire. Now, for the amount of damage that SG Jetfire does, you would think he would rank really, really high. But there's two factors that sort of push his rank down. Firstly is the cost. The cost is crazy compared to other jets. And then, sadly, the other reason is that he doesn't do instant damage like other jets do. He actually hits it with 3 lasers. And the problem being is that because he hits with 3 lasers, it gives the defense time to heal in between. Now, because SG Jetfire does such high damage, you're trying to take out the MDS. You're trying to take out the Shock Tower. Where's the MDS and Shock Tower? Most of the time in that cluster with my Cronus. And so by trying to use SG Jetfire to take out that anything in that cluster, it's getting healed again. And he's not as effective as he once was. His minions can be good to negate the hack from Computron and Laukaiser, so it can be useful. So I'll kind of put him in B tier of having some decent uses, but again, not quite pushing up to those higher tiers. And that is everyone in my ratings. So let me know what you guys think. Is there anyone you think should be higher? Anyone you think should be lower? Is there anything I missed out? Any tricks where you think, actually, Wozza, if you use this bot a certain way, it's actually pretty good? Let me know in the comments, guys. And then we can do some more reviews coming of other classes. Watch out for them as well.